my next guest this evening is a dear sister and friend, Shelley Ward. Shelley is from Vancouver Island, and she was a Jehovah's Witness for 35 years. She still is a Jehovah's Witness, like I am a Jehovah's Witness, but just not in association with the Watchtower Association. We are still witnesses for Jehovah, for his human Messiah, Jesus, in the coming kingdom. And after Shelley woke up and left the organization, she saw the need to be a lighthouse for others who are waking up. And I'll let Shelley share her testimony and tell you more about her journey and how she has tried to help other Jehovah's Witnesses and the pain and sadness that often goes along with that. So Shelley, welcome.
Hi, Tracy.
Hello. Oh, I love that background there. Is that the...
Yeah, I thought I'd go low key underwater kind of.
Okay, well, hopefully you don't have to hold your breath.
No.
So well, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us tonight, and I thank you for coming on and being willing to share. I know there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, you had the same experience that I had as well. I mean, you had a faith that you thought was the absolute truth, and that God was, he was absolutely okay with it, and everything was good and kosher, I guess, if you want to say that word. And then when you find out that maybe there's some things that aren't quite right, and you start to question different teachings and so on, it can almost, like, it's like it pulls the rug out from underneath you. It's like, oh, what? You mean all of this, you know, time and energy and everything that you put into your faith, it doesn't mean anything. It's null and void. And I was like in dire straits for probably a couple of months. I was just wondering, okay, so is the Bible really the truth? Does God exist? Does Jesus exist? You know, and so I spent a lot of time moaning and groaning to God about it. I wanted to know. And then it was really strange. I didn't get a giant, like, a major kind of an awakening or anything, but I thought, you know what? The Bible, I've always thought that the Bible and the scriptures and God existed and so on. And so I thought, you know what? I'm not giving up. I'm going to find out.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't give up, and I am looking forward to hearing all about your journey. And there are a lot of people on here. I'm going to just share a few love to you that they're sharing as you get started to encourage you. And then
Sharon, Diana. Yeah. Oh, Leila. Woohoo.
I love you and your contribution to humanity as well. So your sisters are here. We're looking forward to hearing everything that you have to share, Shelley, and share with us that journey of yours, your testimony, and just some of the things that you're doing. And
well, I didn't want to just fade away. I didn't want to be, you know, someone who just ran away from the scene, the crime scene, or whatever you want to call it. Well, of course I couldn't, because my sister and my niece and all these other people, I mean, I've known them my whole life. I love them dearly. And it's like, I can't just go away and not say hello. This is what you need to know about what's going on. And unfortunately, I didn't handle it very well. I got emotional about it. Of course you do. So there's ways that the Jehovah's Witnesses establishment have put in place so that people like me who are apostate, who don't agree with what they're teaching, we look terrible. We just don't look like they call us mentally diseased. There's some very horrible things to say about us. And of course, because I spoke out on your channel, I did a video and they disfellowshipped me. So I was then labeled an apostate. But I thought, you know, I'm not giving up. I left the burning building and it's still burning. And I'm going back in because there's my sister, there's my niece, my nephew, my great nephews, and all these people that I care about. And, you know, they deserve somebody to stick around. So I have gone to meetings continually, although I'm not welcome. I've also done some street witnessing. I go out, I don't know if you can see it, but I go out with my sign. Something's not working with it. But I go out with my sign and I sit where they have the carts on the street corner. They always leave, they don't stay. But I just want them to know that I haven't left Jehovah. I haven't left God, Yahweh, Heavenly Father, whatever your name for him. And so I've also gone back and taken the emblems every year at the memorial. And of course, that doesn't work. That's not in there. You're not supposed to do that, like, because they have this crazy idea that there's only so many people who are allowed to do that, and so they've narrowed it down to 144,000. And of course, we know that there is no number when it comes to Christ. He accepts everyone. So I do that. I'm ushered out of the building very quickly. I'm not welcome. And if any one of the people that are there ever have a question, they can come to me and ask, you know, well, why are you not, like, why did you get disfellowshipped? Because they don't know that, you know, they don't tell people that why the person got disfellowshipped. They just say they're not one of Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. So their minds can go wherever, right? Like I said to my sister, I said, I want you to know that I was not disfellowshipped for immorality. I was disfellowshipped for what they call apostasy, which, yeah, whatever. I wasn't really guilty of that either. So anyway, so I have a long history. I don't know, Tracy, if I can share my screen. I just wanted to show a picture. I don't know if anyone will know who these people are, but they were at my great-grandparents' house in the 1920s.
Can you hit present there down below?
Okay, yeah.
You see present and then hit share screen?
Yeah.
And then pick your picture and I will pull it up on the screen for you.
Share screen.
Mm-hmm. And if you have any questions for Shelley, put them in all caps and we'll get to them a little bit later, and feel free to keep sharing.
I don't know, pick entire screen, I think.
I don't know if that will work, but if you pull up your, if you
Oh,
have your picture.
I'll pull up the picture.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Nope, not yet. Did you click it? Did you hit present?
Share. Okay, there we go.
There we go. Awesome.
So these men, this is Judge Rutherford in the middle. Not 100% sure all these other dudes what their names are. I think this is McMillan. But my great grandparents were part of the international group of Bible students. And after Russell passed away, this fellow and his buddies came up to visit my great grandparents to see if they would sign on the dotted line and be loyal to them. And my grandparents said, nope, we're not going to do that. Because of the fact that they said that there was these two classes of people. There was anointed people and there was the greater crowd, just generic Christians, I guess. I'm not sure. So my grandparents didn't go with that. And that's fine. My parents weren't religious. They didn't follow. They didn't become Bible students. And then my sister, my oldest sister, was visited by a Jehovah's Witness, and she loved the message. At the time, she probably needed the message. Her husband had died, and she was in a bit of a difficult situation. That's a lot of times I find that Jehovah's Witnesses, that I really wouldn't call them ambulance chasers, but it does happen, and there's a time in your life when you really need spiritual help, and the same thing happened for me. So my sister became a Jehovah's Witness, and then later in years I decided that I had better settle down and get right with God, and I chose to become a Jehovah's Witness, thinking that it was the truth, right? Like we're all searching for it. We don't want to give up our relationship with God. We know that we need to have it. We know that it's the best thing. So I'll quote a friend of mine. He said, there are no fields of just wheat. In every field, there's some weeds. And as much as we want to search for it, there isn't really a place or a church or anything that we can 100%. I mean, there's how many? 50,000 denominations in the world? Like, it's crazy the amount. Like, when I first woke up and decided that, okay, there's not just one true religion in the world, I was really bombarded with the amount of different things that you could get involved in. So that's basically it in a nutshell. No one has a patent on the truth. We're just all seeking it. And I wish I could say, okay, well, if you join this or you do that or whatever, you're going to be okay. But it's not necessarily so. I never got a lot of, I didn't get a lot of hurt from being a Jehovah's Witness. That was all good for me. I learned a lot about the Bible. I learned humility, obedience. There was a lot of really, I met and loved some extremely positive people. I would say that I didn't have some of the stories that some people have from that religion. But that doesn't make it right either. So yeah. So one of the things that bothered me lately was the child baptisms that are going on in the religion because of the shunning. Of course, it has it has so much to do. Like, okay, so if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you're a baptized Jehovah's Witness, then you can be shunned. And you will be shunned. My sister hasn't spoken to me in, I don't know, a couple of years now. She only lives 5 blocks away. So you can be shunned. So if your child is, say, now they're baptizing them as young as 8 or 10 years old, if your child is baptized, like, you are obligated by the religion, by the leadership to shun that child. At that age, I mean, they're not even an adult yet. And I'm totally against that. That's absolute craziness. A child doesn't have the maturity to know that they want to dedicate their life to something. And at that age, okay, so they get baptized and then they decide, oh, well, I maybe don't believe that this is Jehovah's organization at 12 or 13 or whatever age it is. And then the parents turn their backs on those children at that age, and they're still obligated to look after them and care for them. There's some really, and so this is what's going on. People are being shunned. People are losing their lives. They're losing their mates. They're losing their children. They're losing their property. They're having divorces. There's all of this really nasty stuff going on, and I managed to get out of there unscathed, basically, that way, other than having lost my sister. But there's some people are committing suicide. People are, I mean, there's some very serious things wrong with that religion. And I just decided I'm not going to fade and just go away and not be heard. I'll stand up in whatever capacity I can to help those who are going through this nonsense. Where'd you go, Tracy?
I'm here. I was just waiting to see if you were continuing on there. So, well, thank you, Shelley. You're just, you're amazing. And I know you've had a really rough time with your sister, and a lot of people, you know, lose their whole families and relatives, especially when they're in generational. And I know a lot of people like myself who weren't in a cult, you have a hard time understanding that, because like when you wake up and you're like, oh, this isn't right, people that don't understand this would be like, well, why don't you just leave? But you have a lot to lose if you just leave. I know that when Jesus calls us, though, he says, are you willing to give everything up to follow me? And we may lose mother and father and child and whatnot. And for Jehovah's Witnesses, that is very true. And more so than maybe other people who are choosing to follow Christ. you made a point about child baptism, not infant baptism, but when children are encouraged or forced to be baptized young. Like you said, it's a real commitment. And even in other churches that practice, child or adult baptism, it isn't something to take lightly. It really is a commitment. And unfortunately, in the Jehovah's Witness, you're not only committing to follow Christ, whether it's your intent or not. Like you said, if you were baptized into their organization in their mind, even if when you're being baptized, to follow Jesus, but you've now signed on the dotted line. And we all know people, you don't understand everything, and a young person might fall into sin and now they're disfellowshipped, and you can't help them and love them and bring them back because you think by ignoring them and not picking up the phone is going to help them.
Yeah. It's not biblical. It's not in Scripture that we should do those things to anyone. We should never turn our back on anyone. There are some, I don't want to get into all of that.
Right. Yeah. But there are situations, but not like Jehovah's Witnesses practice.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of wanted to, because this is a very important scripture for me, and I wanted to share it with everybody because 2 Peter 2, and this is what it says, and I mean it's pretty blatant. It says, but false prophets also arose among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you. They will surreptitiously introduce destructive heretical teachings, even to the point of denying the master who bought them. As a result, they will bring on themselves swift destruction. Many will follow their indecent lifestyles, and because of these teachers, the way of the truth will be slandered. So basically, it's saying that this is predicted to be happening. We can't really get away from the fact that this is going to happen, but we don't necessarily have to follow along. Right? And if you are awake is such a goofy term to use nowadays. I don't even know. I used to say, "Oh, I'm awake," but now I'm, not so certain about that term anymore. But now I'm aware. And so that's why I've never wanted to just leave the burning building completely, because I am aware. And if somebody else goes, "Oh, wait a minute," I just want to be there to speak to them and say, "You're not crazy. You absolutely have everything correct. You're not losing your mind." And that can be huge to someone. Like for me, okay, so when I started to question things and wonder about stuff, I met Lorraine, and I met you, and I met Diana, and as soon as you have that validation from other people, you go, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm not a lunatic." I believe in God, and there is a God, and how thankful can you be to that? Like, especially like Anthony Buzzard, his translation of the Bible and the things that he produces, I just it's like, yeah, breath of fresh air. It's wonderful. And so I just want to continue. And then there's other people. I could go on, like the list is long of people who are out there, who are, you know, they're not holding back, and they give all of their strength to God when they do it. And it's really, really nice. I didn't expect it when I first found out that, you know, the child sexual abuse and so on, the things that were going on in the organization that I was a member of. At first I was like, oh, well, you know, you feel like you're the only person, but you're not. And it's so wonderful to have the brotherhood, the sisterhood that we have with everybody.
Well, I think it's important for people to know, because unfortunately they tell you, well, where would you go? Or you're leaving Jehovah, and you didn't leave Jehovah. And our other friends didn't leave Jehovah. And in fact, like Lorene shares, you know, I am in the Bible more than I was then. I teach my children more than when I did then. You haven't left Jehovah, and you've left the organization, and people need to understand that. I think one important thing, well, you did many, Shelley, but when you, after that video, and I did put the link in the chat for people if they want to see it on the Faithful and Discreet Slave, the panel Shelley was talking about, but you were called into an interrogation, and they want you alone when you come in for that. And you had studied up, because that's important too. You had studied up in their own material that said you could bring somebody with. And you fought for that, and they let you bring your husband. And like you said, I'm not doing it just for me, but I'm doing it so that other people know that they can. Do you want to share anything about that? Or?
Well, it was, there was a lot of pressure on me to do it their way, where they wanted to do it in the way that they wanted to do it. And I just said, you know, 3 men and 1 woman. I said, no, I think I'd really like to bring my husband. And they were like, oh, well, I'm not sure you can do that. Like there's a law against bringing your husband into a court of whatever, kangaroo court, whatever you want to call it. And so I said, well, I'm bringing him. And when I did, they still tried, like outside the door to get in. They still tried to say, no, he can't come in. And I said, well, I'm not coming in if he doesn't. And
but
so,
see, you knew that. If you didn't know that, you would think they know and you can't, and you just have to go along.
Right. Yeah. But of course, you know me, Tracy. And so I'm like, no. And they were like, okay, well, I guess it's all right. But, well, I won't go into details. But anyway, my husband was really sweet. He just kind of, you know, he was not confrontational or anything with them. And he was, you know, just really.
And he's not a Jehovah.
How are you doing or whatever, just his normal self. And so we went in and they questioned me, and they, you know, they had it all written down what I had said on the video and everything. And I said, I don't deny any of the things I said, right? And they're like, wow, don't you believe that the Faithful and Discreet Slave are the governing body, and they are God's or Jehovah's, council on earth today? Is that what they said? I can't remember exactly what they said, but I said no. And they said, well, you're out of here then. They just fellowshipped me. And I said, that's fine, you know. I can't be a member of an organization that protects pedophiles, you know, and that destroys family relationships. Because I have 2 people that committed suicide in my congregation, and that's pretty, that's serious stuff. That's not just slander. That's like, these people felt that that was their only recourse, was to go away. And so,
that is sad.
So if there's anybody else out there that even entertains the thought, they better get in touch with me, because I will be, like, I'll fight for them. There's a lot of things.
Come alongside them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can be done. I have a friend right now who went through a terrible divorce, lost his children, lost his wife, lost his home, lost everything. And, the man has been brave enough to continue in his faith and not give up, but also had a community of people.
Well, and that's what's really important, is that community, at least a couple people. This is an email you can reach out to Shelley at if you need to or want to, and she'll get back with you there. I'll put it in the comment chat here as well. And we have some questions and comments here for you. Let's see. So Claire's saying that her dad was a JW who married a Roman Catholic mom. Not sure how that worked out with the JWs, as dad did not go to the Kingdom Hall after he married my mother. Is that what is known as fading? Or did he just like leave?
I don't know. I guess I would call it giving up. Like he submitted to your mother's wishes about that. And
so not because the Kingdom Hall said he couldn't come, or would he be an apostate or something because he married a non-Jehovah's Witness?
Oh, he would have totally been disfellowshipped for that, actually.
So that's probably why he quit going then.
Yeah.
Do you want to just speak briefly what is fading for people who don't know what that is?
Well, okay, so I didn't fade because I was vocal about the reason I was leaving.
But what is fading?
So fading is when you just kind of don't go anymore. Nobody really understands why you don't go anymore. You're just not there anymore. And don't get me wrong, people who fade need to fade, right? Like if I had just faded, I wouldn't have lost my sister's relationship, right? But it's just, and this other person who lost their wife and their kids and everything, if they'd have just faded instead of, not saying, well, look, I don't agree with this organization anymore, then they probably wouldn't have lost what they lost too. So if you're fading, it's not a bad thing. It's a way to protect yourself from these unscrupulous, hideous laws that they have in place. That, I mean, when I go to the Kingdom Hall, because I'm an apostate, they usher me out of the building. They watch my every move. I can't even speak to anybody. I am completely, like they're just on me when I am there. So, So if you fade, it's like, oh, people don't really know whether you're
just kind of a weak Jehovah's Witness.
Well, it's just it's a protection for yourself.
No, but for the way they're looking at it, you're just kind of weak. You're
oh yeah. Their judgment of that's one thing about the religion, is it's a constant judgment going on of everybody. It's just really not at all. It's bad.
Well, I know one young man, Shelley, that he faded like that, stating because his parents were elderly and he wanted to be able to take care of them.
That's right. Yeah.
And he wouldn't have been able to, so for their own good.
Right.
that way. Yeah. So Diana and I are going to be having a conversation and telling some more of the stories of why people faded and or left the organization, or why they're looking at leaving, and some of these things that, you know, what happened. And we're going to be doing that on Saturday evening. So hopefully people will join us for that as well, to learn a little bit more about that, or to be encouraged if you're a PIMO, or you're looking at getting out, or you got out, or you're fading, that you can be encouraged by that. We do have a few more questions here. Layla says, thank you for discussing the child baptisms and indoctrination and shunning. So Claire asked, are child baptisms more recent for Jehovah's Witnesses, or is that something that's always been?
No, it's very recent, because their numbers are dwindling, right? And so I remember one convention, I said to my sister, I said, there's 18 children being baptized and 2 adults. I said, that doesn't seem right to me. Like, these children are all like under 14 years old, and 2 adults. I said, that's weird. You know, my ancestors were actually Anabaptist, so they were water baptism, you know, centered.
Mm-hmm.
They had to leave Europe because they were persecuted because of the water baptism that they preferred. And so it's always sort of been an issue. Like, I've always known that infant baptism sounded a little bit sensical, because, like, what is it? I mean, it's good that you want to, you know, your baby to have a good start in life and sprinkle them and do what you're doing. I get the faith of the parents there.
It's not biblical.
So. But it isn't. No, it isn't.
Right.
So this child thing is a very recent thing with the JWs, because they need recruits. Their numbers are dwindling, and they have to be able to say, oh, we have, you know, 8.5. Now they just kind of fudge it and say we have over 8 million people. We used to give exact statistics, but they don't anymore because it doesn't look good.
Right. So we have another question for you. So why do JWs at my door deny shunning, I think, and sexual abuse court cases around the world?
Well, that's a psychological phenomenon called cognitive dissonance. And so you can hold 2 ideas in your head. One of them can be true, the other not true, and you can choose the one that's not true to be your truth, which is weird, I know. But if you study what happens psychologically, okay, so the thing that benefits that person more is the one that they will hold as the truth. So it's quite acceptable for them to say, oh, no, that's just all made up fake news or whatever. Sexual abuse doesn't exist within the Jehovah's Witness religion, and that's not true. But people who want to have that as their religion, could they even fathom having that be true? They couldn't. So they choose not to think it's true. They just decide in their own mind, and that's what cognitive dissonance is. They decide in their own mind to choose the thing that suits them better. It's just, it's not any different than in times of the genocide in Germany. There were a lot of people that knew what was going on, and they just chose not to believe it.
Well, like Lorena always says, you know, oh, just put that on the shelf, put that on the shelf. But soon that shelf gets so big, and it starts coming down. And now that, you know, when COVID happened and all that, they got on the internet a lot more. And so they are finding out that there are more people like yourself and others who have the same questions that they have and put those same things on the bookshelf.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But it's just, our mind plays different tricks on us that we're not aware of.
So is the recent change to no longer report the amount of time spent in the ministry part of a tactic to keep its numbers? And I think that's just for the general people, isn't it? Because those that are pioneers or whatnot, they still have to report, don't they?
I'm not exactly sure about whether the pioneers still have to keep track of their numbers, but yes, that's what it's all to do with. And it's also like a legal thing. Okay, so we used to have book studies, and they were held at private residences, and then that stopped. And the reason wasn't for any other reason other than it was a legal thing because of the parking on the street. Yeah, and so if for some reason a neighbor complained about, you know, having how many cars parked around the person's house or whatever, and so that's why that was stopped. So I wonder if this might be another thing. Like, okay, I'm going to go a little bit deeper here, but in Italy, the branch offices closed down because the Italian government decided that if you're going to have these people in working and doing all this stuff, you're going to pay them like a pension, right? Because if you get elderly and
retirement, yeah,
right. So what the society or the organization or the Bo organization decided to do was just sell all the branches because they didn't want to pay people into their old age a pension, because that doesn't happen. Money goes in, it don't come out. Right? So that I wonder about this reporting hours stuff. Maybe they would have to be paying people an hourly wage.
Right, if they were more in like the pioneers were compared to the publishers.
I don't know.
Yeah, so here we have, let's see, Diane commented. She was baptized at 9 years old back in the 60s at a convention. She thinks it depends also on your parents, what they think about it if they're in as well.
Right. Yeah, so the pressure comes on from your parents, right? And that's not a good thing. Why should you get baptized because somebody else thinks you should, even if they are your parents?
I think her point more was that if they're allowing it to do that, that they were, doing that. They were letting her doing it. They were saying, yes, my child is, old enough if she wanted to be.
Right. And so what are our biblical examples? They're pretty much all adults getting baptized. I don't know. That's what I think.
So we have some love to you, Shelley, from Tom and Tilly. Thank you. We love you. Kayla says, wow, you're so passionate and well-spoken.
I love that woman.
Yeah. Let's see. Shelley, you look marvelous.
Aww. Yeah, Lorraine was the first person I met when I woke up. I was like, oh my goodness, there's somebody else, not just me.
Well, and this is a fear tactic with a lot of things. Diane said, I was scared I would die in Armageddon if I wasn't baptized.
Right. So pressure, pressure, pressure.
So you want to, not because you think that they're telling me to do it. It's because you believe what they're preaching and you don't want to die in Armageddon. And that's why, you know, don't get married, don't have kids, don't, you know, get a job, you know, don't go to school because Armageddon's coming, and, you know, why bother?
Well, I never even got, like, I wouldn't even buy a new winter coat because I'd be like, oh, well, why bother? I'm, you know, this coat will do me until Armageddon. My Armageddon coat.
You got a new one now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Shelley, do you have any last words that you would like to share? I really appreciate you taking the time to share a little bit about your experience and, you know, what you're doing with all this. We just really want to be able to help people to know that they're not leaving Jehovah. They're not crazy, like you said. Those questions you have are legitimate, and people that aren't Jehovah's Witness should be compassionate towards these people, because it's a cult. It's not just another church, and understand that.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Tracy. It isn't just another church. You don't have personal freedom or space. You are commanded to do all of the things, and it's like a weird unwritten thing that goes on too. It's not like it's out there for you to be able to know. Like when Jehovah's Witnesses proselytize, they're not telling you the whole story when they're wanting you to come into their fold. They're not telling you what really goes on. That's for sure.
Well, and they may not even truly know themselves, you know?
Well, this is true. Until you break one of those unwritten laws, you don't even know.
Well, I think Laureen, didn't she say she didn't even know about the shunning or something when she first came in? She found out later and was like, oh, I guess that's the way it is.
Right. Well, my husband was always smart. He says, I'm not getting baptized because then I'd really be in trouble.
And that could be too what Claire was mentioning earlier. Maybe her father wasn't baptized, and that's why he was able to do that. And she mentioned later in the chat that he still talked to people when they came to the door. So
yeah, but
I guess he wasn't disfellowshipped if they're still coming to talk to him.
But for me, that was the goal, to be baptized and dedicate my life to the Lord, which is, it's almost completely denied in that religion. We don't talk about, they never talked about Jesus, and giving your life to the Lord would have sounded weird. Right? We wouldn't have said that.
You just gave your life to the organization.
Well,
without knowing it. I mean, knowing it, but not knowing it. It wasn't like you're signing a contract to do it, but just in everything that you had to do and not do, you were.
Well, yeah, if you read the New Testament, there's no denying that that's, you know, that Jesus is the one you should be following, right? Like there's no denying that. And yet they say that that's only for a few people.
And you're happy, though, not to be one of the few people. That's what's weird, that everyone's okay with that.
Right. And that's why they ushered me out of the building when I took the emblems last year. It was like, you are not allowed to talk to anybody. You are a weirdo. Let's get you out of here as quick as we can.
Well, they know you're dangerous to the other people. Well, thank you, Shelley. Love you. Send you hugs and appreciate you sharing. And we'll have to do another panel sometime on another topic. It'll be fun.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you for doing all of this that you do. It's amazing.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I appreciate all of your support. Bye, Shell.
Bye.